In this week's video, I'm going to review content marketing strategies that will help you increase sales, gain more customers, and grow your business. In fact, these are tried and true practices that I've used with clients, and I also use them in my business. In fact, this video is a great example. It serves as a core piece of content that I'll also create a podcast episode and a blog post. So these strategies and tactics can be used no matter where you are in your marketing journey, whether you're just starting out or you're working with or in a multi-billion-dollar century-old corporation. They work regardless. And stick with me because I've got a free resource that you can download at the end that I will share with you as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Did you know that according to the Content Marketing Institute in 2021, marketers increased their content budgets by 44%. And in 2022, this year, they increased them another 66%. So if you're not focused on content marketing and you want tried and true marketing strategies, then you are in the right place, my friend. We're going to use the 4-pillar approach that I use in my 30-day video bootcamp because it's a great place to start and it creates a solid foundation for any strategy, whether it's video, content, marketing, anything. Having pillars is also important to creating quality content, making sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Now, if you're just starting out, of course, your content's going to probably be less than stellar, maybe not the quality level that you want. But as with anything else, the more you practice, the better you get. So don't think that quantity is the key here. The key here is quality. And when you develop one piece of quality macro content, that big piece of pillar content, to abstract micro pieces of content that you can then use on your social media channels that will drive traffic back to your macro piece of content, that's really what this is all about. So forget about the old age mantra of quantity is best. In this case, we're looking at quality. And then you know that you're leveraging your time and you're maximizing your budget and your efforts in all the right places. The first pillar is primary foundation. As with anything, you need to define what your basic foundation is and understand what your business goals are. What are you trying to achieve with this piece of content? And where are you ultimately going to distribute it based on where your ideal customers or target audience is spending time? The second pillar is process, and this has to do with creating that initial piece of content and what you're going to do and in what order. Where are you going to find your research? Where are you going to find out where your ideal customers are spending time? When are you going to post it? What time of day is going to be most appropriate to post that piece of content? So really look at your resources and figure out what process you're going to follow so that you can, again, maximize your time whenever you're piecing any one piece of content. The third pillar is platform. When you can identify where your ideal customers are spending the most time, that's where you're going to want to focus all of your time. Now, you do see some people who are on multiple platforms and they're sharing a piece of content from Twitter, on LinkedIn, and sharing a story from TikTok, on Instagram. And yes, that is all well and good. But if you're just starting out with content marketing or just starting out with marketing in general, you're going to want to keep it simple. And the reason why I say that is because you don't want to overwhelm yourself or spread yourself too thin. When you spread yourself too thin, imagine how your time is spent throughout the day if all you're doing is creating content and trying to get it out on all the platforms and then trying to work with your network in order to engage with them and respond to any comments and questions and replies and likes and anything that has to do with that piece of content. Your time is going to be all over the place, which isn't going to allow you to spend any time doing what you love, which is what you started your business for or the company that you're working for. The fourth pillar is promotion. So looking at what is that piece of content serving that needs to have some type of follow-up or CTA, that call to action. What do you want the person who's reading or watching or listening to do with that piece of content now that they've gone through that entire piece. Now, using these 4 pillars are going to help you create the solid foundation to creating quality content that you need to get started or improve what you're doing with your marketing. Now, think back to when you did your very first blog post, your very first video, or your very first podcast episode, your very first social media post. Whatever it was, I guarantee it wasn't the same level of quality that you are now capable of doing, mostly because you've had that experience and you've tried and true different things. And now you know what works. And if not, apply this 4-pillar approach to moving forward, and you're going to have a killer content marketing strategy moving forward. Now, your content marketing is all about your macro and micro approach. Your macro being that main piece of pillar content that you're going to use over and over again by repurposing the quotes or the images or the infographic if you have one, or the video or the podcast. Whatever you have in that macro piece of content is what you're going to use to get the biggest bang for your buck with repurposing that content, so that you are not creating and recreating brand new content every single time you open up Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of your own personal time, because that's worth something. And understanding what that's worth will help you better understand how much new content you need to create versus repurposing existing content. Now, if you look at the very first blog post that I can get to from February of 2011 that I created on theeclecticblog.com, which was my very first website that I created, you'll notice that the content in there is okay, but it's not to the same level of caliber that it is today. And I could actually take that same content and repurpose it today with the current version of the Ford Edge, right? So the 2022 version versus, I think that one was either the 2010 or 2011 version. So I could write the same information, but just update the stats and whatever else is different with the features and the functionality and the driving, which I'm sure is still a phenomenal vehicle, and then repurpose that content. I could take that same blog post and repurpose it, update it, and now I have the same blog post, but with more current information. It's that simple. You can do that with any of your content. So don't recreate if you don't have to. Don't waste your time. But of course, if you have new content to create that's going to be helpful to your target audience, it's going to solve a particular problem, it's going to help relieve some type of negative emotion that they're going through, then of course, create that content. When you take those 4 pillars and you create that macro piece of content that you could then repurpose micro pieces of content from, it's what I call the content multiplier effect. Now, you're familiar with the ripple effect, right? When you drop a pebble into water, it creates a ripple effect that starts here where the pebble dropped, and then it goes out and it eventually fades away, right? So one ripple. The content multiplier effect is the examples that I've been sharing with you. It's you create one piece of content, but now you get multiple ripple effects because you're placing that piece of content or micro content in different places. This video, one macro piece of content that I'm going to have on YouTube, but I'm also going to embed it on my website, that I will also then create a podcast episode that I will upload to Libsyn, which will go out to Apple and Spotify and SoundCloud. Then I'll take the context and create text for a blog post that I might creating an image that I can then take and create a micro piece of content on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. So you can see that I've got all these different starting points for the different content, video, podcast, blog, and now taking those and having a ripple effect by taking that content into different directions and reaching multiple people, I should say the same audience, multiple people along that path. So by creating this one video, I'm going to be able to create all these other pieces of content from it. With any good piece of quality content, each piece is going to have 4 basic components. The first one is a headline, one of those attention grabber, eye-catching, gotta stop and read it headlines. Now you might be thinking, okay, how do I create one of those? Well, you can search Google, or you can use a tool that's really helpful, not just for the headline, but for other pieces of what I'm going to talk about as well. And it's called Jarvis.ai. So you can test out different headlines and it'll actually help you write compelling headlines depending on what you're trying to accomplish, and really tweak it for you so you can really get that attention grabber headline that you really want. I'll include a link below, so if you want to access that and check it out, it'll be there for you to access as well. The second thing that you need for that great quality macro piece of content is an intro or a hook, something that's really going to compel them to want to click on that link or read that article or watch that video. So on YouTube, for example, the headline would be the thumbnail. What is in that thumbnail that's going to say, wow, I have got to click on that? But before I do, let me read the title and make sure it's not clickbait or something that isn't going to be relevant to what I want to watch. So your title then is going to be your intro or your hook that really gets people's attention to say, yes, I want to watch that video, or yes, I want to listen to that podcast episode, or click that link and get more information. The third thing that you'll want to include in a quality piece of macro content is the body, which is going to be the majority of any piece of content. So that'll include anywhere from like 3 to 5, maybe 7 bullet items or pieces of content that you want to focus on. Now, we all know that attention spans are super short, so keep that in mind when you're looking at your bullet items. And if you've got a bunch of them, then consider making a part 1, part 2, or a series that will ultimately get people coming back for more after they watch the first video, second video, etc. And the fourth thing that you want to make sure that you include in a macro piece of content is the conclusion or the summary or the wrap up, whatever the final point is that you want to make that kind of brings everything together. And then it includes your CTA or call to action. That's what you want people to do now that they finished watching the video, listening to the podcast, or reading your blog post. That's a really important item to incorporate into that piece of content, because that's a great way to capture people's email addresses or send them to your Facebook page. Whatever that call to action is, that's what you need to make sure that you include. Don't forget that one, because that really is the key to any piece of high quality content that will keep your customers and your target audiences coming back. Getting started can be difficult, especially when you see so many different resources and people talking about different things that they can use, just like Jarvis AI. I want to give you some resources that you can use, and you can get started right now. So the first thing that I always recommend, in fact, I've got a video on it that I will put over here, is a resource I rely on for anything print, digital, email, images, it doesn't matter. It's Canva.com. They have a lot of different free features included already. And even if you want to create a custom image shot, they've got that capability in there too. The second resource I highly recommend and use with a lot of my clients is ConvertKit. This is what I use for email. And even if you don't have a website yet, this is a great resource that you can use to even start collecting email addresses. And the reason being is because they provide forms and landing pages that you can use to start building your email list. And as your business grows, you've already got a great resource for building out funnels and automations and all the goods. The third resource I like to recommend, which is a more creative way to ask questions and engage your audience, is using Typeform. They also have a video version of that called Video Ask. So depending on if you want to create like quizzes or surveys or just gather information on your target audience, Typeform is great for that. The fourth resource that I will recommend that you use is if you're looking for high quality photos. You can get a lot of free high quality photos on Unsplash.com. Now, Shutterstock is another great resource, but that is all paid. So you can't get free high quality photos on Shutterstock for free. but Unsplash is a great place to start to get free high quality photos, and you get a lot of different variations too. So that's a great place and a great resource for you to start at. The fifth and final resource that I'm going to share with you today, and it's about audio. So if you're looking for different sounds or sound effects, freesound.org is a great resource for getting free you can use in your videos, or if you want to add emphasis in a podcast episode. You can even use them in your blog post if you want to incorporate a sound clip in there somewhere. Regardless, if you go to freesound.org, that is available to you for free as well. The next thing I want to share with you is multi-channel marketing, which is combining your digital and traditional or your online and offline marketing efforts. It's important to understand where your ideal target audience is spending time and how you can best capture their attention. And then that helps drive which type of media or marketing you want to be present. So if you're trying to create awareness, then you'll want to focus on more things like newspaper, TV, billboards, direct mail, things that are really going to capture their attention when they first see it, but then incorporate some type of QR code that's going to give you an opportunity to capture their attention longer. So traditional media is just a point in time, right? It's just for that amount of time and however long it's in front of them. Normally, it could be like a split second, maybe a couple of minutes, and then it's thrown away, page is turned, they move on. That's a missed opportunity for you to get them to scan a QR code that takes them online to your website or captures their email address or gets them to your Facebook page so that they can like it and follow you. So if you're going to engage in any type of offline or traditional media, make sure that you incorporate something like a QR code that will help you navigate their journey from print to online so that you can continue to communicate with them and you can continue to stay in front of them for when they're ready to buy from you. Now, there are a lot of different strategies that we can all engage in, but the two that are most important for 2022 and beyond are going to be, number one is your video marketing strategy. The reason being is because video is the number one form of media that any person will engage in, they will be attracted to, or they will take action on. That can be short form video content like TikTok, Snapchat, or Instagram, Facebook stories, or it could be longer form video content like what I'm creating here on YouTube. So know your target audience and understand where they're spending time and then develop that type of video content for them where they are. You can also do a combination of both. So if you are on TikTok and really engaging with an audience there, it doesn't mean that you can't do shorts on YouTube that lead to longer form content on YouTube. So that's why you need to do your research and understand your target audience so that you can best serve them, engage with them, and ultimately have them buy from you. If you aren't sure who your ideal customers are or how to even identify who they are and where they're spending time, I've got a podcast episode and resources that you can use that will help you facilitate that process. I will include a link in the description below. The second most important marketing strategy that you need to focus on in 2022 and beyond is email marketing. And the reason why I say this is because it's the one place that you can communicate with your ideal audience without any contingencies on whether or not that platform is going away. Right? So even if the email platform ConvertKit that I'm using today, if they go away, I can still download my email addresses and upload them to another resource. But if you're solely relying on Facebook, for example, and you have no email list, but you're relying on that platform for connecting with and engaging with and even selling to your ideal customers, if Facebook goes down or goes away, then you are at a loss and your entire business is kaput. So I recommend that you don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and the eggs that you do put in a basket, you make sure that one of those, and your biggest one, is for email marketing. That will give you the leverage that you need to control when you communicate with them and how often, the messaging, and the consistency. They know when they see an email in their inbox that it's something that they subscribe to and that it's something of interest to them. When they're on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, there's all these other options, and you just have to be hoping and praying that when they're scrolling through their feed, that they stop on yours. Email gives you more control, that they are more likely going to see your message because they chose to see your messages. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I had a resource that you could use to help you with your content marketing, and I will go ahead and include a link below in the description. But this is a content marketing strategy document that I put together for myself to help me manage and monitor my macro content and my micro content. That this is a great resource for you to use to remember that one piece of big content or longer form content is a great way to maximize the amount of time that you spend at creating something new and then leveraging that forever. Basically, you can distribute that piece of content forever. So this document will help you organize all of that so that you can start making that happen today. If you're new here and you like this type of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I share all different types of video content strategies, marketing strategy tips. I even have interviews with people that are on my podcast, and I post the video interviews here as well. So different types of content, learn from other resources as well. And don't forget to hit like on this particular video. And if you know somebody who could benefit from marketing strategies or wants to start creating marketing content, then click that share button and share it with them. And of course, if you want to come back to this and revisit this video for more nuggets of content, then save it and you'll have access to it forever. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and being on this channel. And until next time, make today great.